Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your JCN News for this Monday, November 2nd. It's day 2 of the tourism sector reopening, the second attempt made by the government to restart the economy amidst the global pandemic. With this reopening, the Ministry of Tourism says all tourists coming to the Bahamas will be required to have mandatory travel health insurance. Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar says that the cost of this insurance will be billed to the visitor through the introduction of a fee for the travel health visa.
The inclusion of the travel health visa is to ensure that any visitor who may test positive for the coronavirus while on vacation in the Bahamas or become ill from the virus while in the Bahamas will not suddenly become a burden to an already overburdened Bahamian public health system. This insurance is not intended for Bahamians, as they will be returning home, and we expect them to avail themselves of our local healthcare providers and our local medical facilities.
On Saturday, the minister revealed that there is no mandatory quarantine period for visitors and that testing upon arrival will not take place, as the use of the COVID-19 rapid antigen tests were not supported by the available research. As for the mandatory health insurance, visitors staying up to the 4 nights will be charged $40. Those staying more than 4 nights will be charged $60. Children 10 years and under will not be charged. The minister also asserted that any visitor who displays COVID-19 symptoms during their stay, either through the self-reporting mechanisms or a hotel or through a Ministry of Health evaluation, will be required to take a rapid antigen test and receive a negative result in order to continue their vacation.
When a test is uploaded by a prospective traveler, whether they be Bahamian or not, there's 4 things that we look for on that test. Is it the right test with the right result within the right time period from the right lab? So in answer to your question, when you've looked at these results a million times, you get familiar with what a lab result looks like from a particular lab. And if you haven't heard of the lab, there's a way that you can go online and search to see if that lab is properly accredited. So there are agencies and organizations in the United States.
The incompetence of the competent authority is no small thing, and his incompetence is delaying the start of the country's economic recovery. That's what Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis contends, making reference to the government's decision to reverse its decision on testing individuals upon arrival into the country. Mr. Davis, in a statement following the Ministry of Tourism's update on Saturday, says that this reversal puts the health of Bahamians at risk. Mr. Davis says, noting that the Minister of Tourism now apparently feels that rapid antigen tests are not warranted upon entry into the Bahamas, says the requirement to take this same test on the 5th day remains in place and questions the sense of it. The PLP leader asks where the protocols and support for hotels are to protect hotel staff, and says everyone wants the tourism sector to open successfully, but the government has a responsibility to protect Bahamians who will interact with visitors. Deputy Medical Officer Dr. Delon Brennan defending the government's decision to do away with the testing upon arrival requirement for anyone returning to the country. He says that the tests would not give the type of results you think you'd be getting. Dr. Brennan explained the reason they wanted someone to have a RT-PCR test from 5 days within their travel date is because they want to screen out those individuals who have an already shedding virus. Dr. Brennan reminded the public that international organizations such as the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization doesn't encourage the testing of traveling individuals as they're asymptomatic, and those resources could be used on those who are symptomatic. And if there's any question of whether tourists entering the country and testing positive will be a strain on the Bahamas healthcare facilities, Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar reassures that any tourists who test positive for COVID-19 during their stay in the country will not put a strain on healthcare facilities. Minister de Aguilar assures that the ministry is looking at all aspects of the reopening.
The influx of arriving passengers will not jeopardize the availability of health resources, hospital beds, or COVID-19 testing capabilities for any Bahamian. Atlantic Medical, now known as CG Atlantic, has been contracted to fulfill this new mandatory requirement that each visitor coming to the Bahamas be in possession of specific COVID travel health insurance. In the case where a visitor tests positive, 3 comprehensive options are available to that visitor, none of which will burden our existing health infrastructure.
Minister de Aguilar explains the 3 options that tourists will have if they test positive for the virus at any point of their stay.
Those who test positive but exhibit no symptoms, i.e. asymptomatic, can quarantine in place for up to 14 days. The insurance will cover the hotel costs of that quarantine. Second, if a person tests positive, exhibits no symptoms, asymptomatic, but has a pre-existing medical condition, then they will have the option to be medically evacuated out of the country. And third, if a person tests positive and exhibits symptoms, they will be immediately medically evacuated to their home country for medical purposes.
The minister says that since the 14-day mandatory quarantine will be removed, visitors will no longer be required to vacation in place for 14 days. Visitors will be able to enjoy the amenities of their hotel, the beach, and excursions so long as health protocols are followed and enforced. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.